I think I opened Pandora's box, and I wish I could put it back.
And today I have a special guest with me. If she would like to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Cami. I go by Cami-Oh.
The great Cameo. And what's your newest project you have out right now?
I released an album in January. It is called Scarlet Fever,
Yeah, great piece of work.
and I came up with the concept of it in August. Um, and I was originally going to call it Pandemic, actually. I had a
Um,
lot of titles floating around, but I ended up sticking to Scarlet Fever because the theme of the album has a lot to do with late stage capitalism and the isolation that comes with it, as if it's a world pandemic. And then I released this in January before the whole world pandemic. And at the time, I thought of it as kind of like a internal spiritual thing that was going on with everybody, but now it's like a physical thing going on. And I just thought it was interesting, and I feel almost that I
it manifested.
I've
So yeah, does it fit?
manifested something.
Yeah,
Um,
how does that feel though? Because I know we're all, I've been getting message where do something, something's about to change. So how's it making you feel even right now?
well, it's making me feel like didn't ask for this. I'm not dealing with it very well. It's not easy for me to make music in a time like this because I'm a person that is more productive when there's stimulation happening around me. And I think of my music making as sort of like a sonic photograph of a specific point in time so that I'll always remember anything or remember everything, like the atmosphere, how shitty
Okay.
I felt, where I was, who I was with, and I kind of translate that into my music. And with me not seeing anything besides my room, I think that is resulting in me not being very productive. But you
Okay.
know what?
Well,
I just released an album that I feel like relates to this world situation right now. So I'm giving myself credit for that one.
okay. Well, we're all, waiting on that next project. And, yeah, I'm sure you have way more to say. And people are going to want to, like you said, they're going to want to be able to come back to this time and see everyone, because we're in a verge of something that's going to be historical. So I, for one, am here and I'm going to continue voicing my opinions if I can get other people to join in. And, because before this, I was just slaving it up, as I like to say, just being a nice wage slave. And,
Yeah.
you know, all that's gone. People have been laid off. Like you said, you've been in the house almost a month and a week. I
Mm,
just,
about a month
started
and a
doing
half.
this. Okay. Well, I was just working and I just got let go last Tuesday. So, but I've been seeing the effects. But anyway, more about your, so where do you get your inspirations for music from? Who are some of your favorite artists, or musical or non-musical, that just, you know, give you
Um,
kind of a muse sort of deal?
well, I think I pull inspiration from a lot of different genres. I don't know. I grew up listening to like rock music mostly, and I was in a lot of bands as a drummer.
Okay.
I was in like a shitty punk band when I was 14, 16 as a drummer. And another punk band and then a metal band. And then I discovered dance music, like when I moved to England when I was a teenager. And I got really into drum and bass and techno. And
That's where you started acquiring, tools and things to make this?
yeah, because I was a drummer already and I kind of played guitar, but I got
Mhm.
into beat making when I got into dance music, and I just realized the infinite possibilities when it came to music making in that realm of
Okay.
things. And I think,
Did you have a particular tool that you liked that you might want to shout out or give to other people that are inspiring to do the same sort of thing?
well, I mean, for one, I use Ableton for pretty much everything.
Okay.
And I've had the same synth plugin set. I use the Korg Legacy series on pretty much every song. I mean, I have a
Okay.
few other synthesizers, VST synthesizers that I use, but for the most part, I
It's your
use
favorite.
like my favorite one's the Korg Monopoly,
Okay.
and I think I started making beats through Audacity, and then I moved on to Logic, but Ableton's
Okay.
always been my favorite. The workflow of it just I think is the easiest.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you said you so your inspiration from rock bands. What are some of your favorite ones? Some of your favorite acts? And like I said, it doesn't just have to be rock. It can be whatever you want.
Well, I mean, I went to rock school where they made us like do Led Zeppelin covers, Pink
Uh,
Floyd, and all that. But I think my favorites were like Soundgarden, Led Zeppelin, um,
okay. Some of the classics.
Nirvana, a lot of stuff from the 90s. I think the 70s and the 90s were like my favorite eras of rock music. But then I got more into like acid house and stuff, and then graduated into jungle. Uh, I went to like a lot of jungle raga raves in my youth,
Okay.
which I'm still young, but
And it didn't see, yeah, that's, you'll get inspired by your environment. So that's understandable.
yeah, but I still take those influences with me. I think um, it's reflected in a lot of my work now.
Okay. Just a second. Sorry. All right. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and something you'd like to share from your past?
Well, I grew up in the suburbs of Philly, about 30 minutes drive outside the city, and I don't know. I always thought living in Pennsylvania was kind of boring. I didn't do well in public schools or any of that. So, I went to like 3 different high schools, and then
Okay.
I ended up being sent to England to go to like finish high school, like 11th grade. But I went to college there. They call it like 11th and 12th grade. And
College.
then I went to uni in London for 4 years, which I liked a lot better. But so yeah, basically Philly, Wolverhampton, London, and now I'm in New York City, which I've lived here for 4 years now.
Okay. East Coast. All right.
So East Coast.
So, so, damn it. I had a question, but I distracted myself. But let me see. How should I ask? Okay, so this is a bit off topic. What kind of you look at any certain other kinds of art or creative messages that you like that you like to look at? You know, you can either, like for me, I like comic books. I've been checking out graphic novels.
Oh,
So
yeah. Actually, I love graphic novels. I haven't read them in a while, but actually, one of the songs on Scarlet Fever was inspired by a graphic novel I read called The Prince of
okay,
Cats. And that's the song name, Prince of Cats.
okay,
Um,
I'll
it's
definitely check it out.
like a Brooklyn artist did that and is basically like a modern hip hop version of um, Romeo and Juliet. I'd say I'm not really listening to any specific artists right now, but been getting into Cuban Revolution music.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty fire too. I liked it.
And I just actually started something today from a Spanish guitar track that Bash Nova sent me. Shout out to Bash Nova.
Yeah, he's
Artist's name is Swin Deorin. So I think I'll record vocals on that. Lately, I've been also getting into auto-tune as a creative device.
okay.
I have a song coming out, I think either Friday, May 1st. It's coming out.
Okay.
And it's called Parasite.
I didn't watch that whole movie, but I actually ended
Oh,
up.
it's not about the movie. It's more it's more
It's
about
the
political.
what?
It's more politically
Okay.
charged than that, but
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just saw the end of it, which I guess just ruins the whole movie. But
because I think we're just like parasites of the earth, and it's push has gone to
it's
shove with that,
sick.
and
Yeah, it's sick of our shit,
the earth is
basically.
just sick of our shit, and I think that's what the song is about.
Okay. Which, yeah, I agree with that. The Earth definitely is sick of our shit. But yeah, remember this came out in 2001, was the Carmen, a hip hopper, since you were talking about the Prince of Cats having that whole hip hop thing.
Carmen, who?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever looked, if you ever seen it. Carmen is called a hip hopper.
Carmen Hip Hopera.
Yep, it's got Beyonce in it.
Oh, I think I vaguely remember this. I was like really young when this
Yeah.
was going on. Okay, I just
Okay.
googled it. An engaged Philadelphia policeman falls in love with a beautiful woman while
Yeah.
corrupt superior blah 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 blah. But yeah, okay,
Yeah. It
interesting
was. Yeah.
adaptation.
It just.
Modern adaptation of modern urban adaptation of a opera,
Yeah.
a hip
So
opera.
I never thought I would. Yeah. Look back on that and like they actually made that. But anyway, so see, so I'll notice in your music as well, like when I listen to it at work or when I was working, people kind of got this vibe that they thought I was like you were calling out to a demon or some shit was about to happen. So let's talk about some of your occult knowledge or what your beliefs are.
Well, I got into sigils, I guess, and the occult and stuff when I was living in the UK. Uh,
Okay.
cause there's a very strong culture for that, considering like all the great figures in the occult are from England, and
Yeah.
weird history with that. But I started to view sigils as like an art form, and I
Okay.
haven't made one in a while. I think the last one I did was like January at some point. But basically, write like a message or something I want to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
make my own little symbol from that intention. And I feel like I've done so many of them, I don't remember what they each mean. But I guess that's the whole point of it too. Or I learned
It,
that the whole point of it
yeah,
is you don't recognize the meaning of it anymore. It just becomes a part of what you
yeah,
integrate
just
into your
something.
day-to-day life. But I
Yeah.
think, I don't know, I dated like this dude that was into the occult and showed me kind of the dark side of that you can get very selfish with your intentions and not really look
Mm-hmm.
out for anybody else, and kind of only see your path when it comes to things and not consider anyone else's path.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like a dark side to it that I don't engage with anymore, but I think that you can't have light without darkness, you know? And
It's about, yeah, I agree with you. It's, a balancing act when it comes to that.
so I think even though my music might sound dark and like I'm calling out to Satan or whatever, I think I
Beelzebub.
still have positive intentions there, and it's not really riddled in selfish desires like a lot of the
Okay.
occult dudes I've met that are on some power complex.
Well, they need to get into that Kabbalah because it tells you that the system has its own laws, and while you can't particularly beat them, you can sway them to your favor. So, but anyway, so for those who don't know, sigil work is a practice where almost like drawing or handwriting, and all these things can be incorporated into making sigils. And I guess the modern day version of a sigil would basically be your company logo. For those who don't know, that's a sigil.
And it's used, I mean, a lot of big corporations use sigils.
Yeah, Pepsi, yeah, they all have something that you can recognize, like McDonald's, Golden Arches. It's a very interesting thing, and some people just, you know, don't tie company logos into the occult, but yeah, it's very blatant. And then, of course, you can't. I'm sure you noticed that true magic is when you can put things out into the open to where people don't even see them anymore. Which you just basically said that about your sigil losing whatever and just becoming one with reality.
Yeah. And I think
that's how your modern day logos work.
and I think um I've done that with like lyrical content as well, where I sort of like write some sort of poetic phrase but then rearrange the words to mean something else. And so it kind of has like a double meaning or a triple meaning.
Yeah,
I strive to have a triple
metaphorical.
meaning. It's hard to do, but like it's
Just go for the metaphor, because then anyone can get anything out of it, especially when they're on that spirit, that path as well. But yeah, that's very interesting. So, how do you work that process into your mind, or when do you tell yourself you want to do that?
I think I don't really plan to write lyrics. I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just a thought comes to me that I think is really strong, and I just write it down in my iPhone notes, and then I'll see it later and then continue with that thought.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, obviously,
Do you
these thoughts.
I guess say it again.
I
Sorry.
think obviously these thoughts come from me. Like, I don't know. I'll give you an example. Like the last thought that came to me that was like really strong statement that I just had to write down was nothing to hold on to except technology and fiction. And I just wrote like an entire song based around that phrase. And I don't really write
Okay.
hooks. I don't really think I'm like a I write songs in like a hook format where I repeat that phrase very often, but um, I'll just kind of let it flow organically. And I mean, I wouldn't call myself a prog musician, but I just like to write the lyrical
Okay.
content kind of organically and maybe like repeat like a phrase or two, but I don't really have like, a verse chorus kind of structure.
Okay. Yeah. Can you go into depth more about your like what influenced you to just have a song structure like that?
Honestly, now that I
Like
think
what did?
about it, I think Patti Smith influenced me a lot.
Okay.
um, I remember like being really into her like in college, and then I saw her live like at some music festival, and just like the energy she gave out was just so powerful. Like you could tell that these words she was saying, they come from like all sorts of places. And sometimes she's just sort of like rambling, but I think the way she goes about song structure like definitely influenced me, because it's just purely out of passion and not really any sense of direction. When I feel like people can't see from my point of view, I just go off on them. And I think that's why I make music, or part of the reason why I make music is because I make like a physical thing from my point of view that people can indulge and listen to, that they still won't see it from my point of view, but they can experience it to some extent just through
Yeah.
listening. And I feel fulfilled in that way, because I've always found it hard. I don't think many I hate to sound like an edgelord right now, but I don't feel like I can relate to a lot of people, and I never felt like I could. So, music has been like the outlet for me in that
Okay.
way. I always felt like an outsider.
Uh,
I feel like that's such a cliche thing to say,
yeah.
but
I mean, I've been there too. So, and I'm thinking, well, I never came in from the outside, so I totally get you. So, because it's if you think about the occult anyway, and how you were talking about being selfish, ultimately, is our experience. So it's good to it's
yeah.
good to go with it, experience it, and just not put up with foolishness. So I mean, we can be foolish, but let's not waste our time. Says you should take up space.
How so? On the internet?
Whatever means you use your own artistry, because you have a powerful voice and like probably a stand, but yeah, your music has energy, so use it to your advantage for sure.
Ooh,
But
thank
then,
you.
oh yeah, this also says if this group isn't for you, there will be another group that is willing to accept you just as you are. So Okay, so how do I make that a
Just
question?
as chaotic as you
Yeah.
are.
So whenever, and that's on, something I learned too, when you do get emotional, that's probably one of, I don't know if you can boil it down and actually create something, but that emotion is a good fuel to use for any kind of
Yeah.
project. And I've done that.
I think, yeah, I've done that with the song I'm about to release. I was in a very dark headspace when I made that song.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? With my first album, I was probably in the darkest headspace I've ever been. That's why I can't really listen to it, because it reminds me of those times I was like basically bedridden for 6 months and
Okay.
I didn't have anything to do, which is kind of like similar to now. I'm kind of in similar headspace, I think. But
At least now, you can move, though. You
yeah, at
have
least now I can move
energy,
and I
you
can.
can
I've been
create.
working out
There
every
you go.
day. I have energy to make food and work
What
out.
what's your
Like,
workout regimen you got going on?
oh, the Jillian Michaels 30-day shred
There you go.
challenge.
Y'all check that out.
You should check it
Yeah.
out because it really
And,
works, and it's like 3 videos, and they just like ascend and harness each time,
okay.
and like you just do each video for 10 days, and now I'm on the third video, and I have just 4 more days to go on
See,
that
look at
one.
that, Julian Michaels getting them gains in. So please sponsor us.
Yeah, Jillian Michaels, if you're listening, please.
Throw a little money out, or just shout out would be cool too. All right, so
Is she from Jersey? I can't remember.
I'm not even
I
sure.
love that I'm from Philly, and
Philly.
we're not considered Jersey, but we might as
Yeah,
well
you
be.
should, because yeah, South Jersey as well is like almost like
Oh,
Philly.
or East PA might as well be Jersey.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I don't know how to make that a question. Jillian Michaels sponsorships. We need that big money.
She'll have me in the next video. I can do tricep
Oh
push-ups
shit.
very well now. I think.
Yeah, I'm over here being just laying up. Even I know I need to move around more. I've been focusing on this thing where it says the 3 things you should do is find a way to be creative, find something that makes you money, and find something that keeps you healthy.
Keeps you healthy. I feel like that's what I've been focusing on.
Yeah.
Like eating well and working out.
So you got the healthy part down.
Because when I was like really
Uh-huh.
sick, I just ordered food every day. That's all I had energy to do.
just for the audience, what sort of sickness did you have? Like, what did you get? What is it?
Oh, it was like it was fibromyalgia, which I've been diagnosed with. It's basically like chronic fatigue, and tiredness and inability to really communicate or think properly when you have a flare up. It's it's like a chronic illness like lupus, but
Okay.
I guess it's more common in females, and it occurs when there's high stress in my life. And at the time, looking back, I think there was a lot of stress in my life transition thing that I was going through.
Okay.
But I was going to physical therapy and taking a lot of medication and stuff that might have contributed to it as well. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
Well, what
kind of skeptical when it comes to pharma.
Okay, and for anyone that has it that can hear you, what advice would you give them to
Honestly, the thing that helped me the most was exercise.
Okay. So
I think I also exercise to stop any symptoms from coming back. Exercise and taking a breath, not internalizing your emotions like I tend to do.
No, that's easier said than done. So
yeah.
Okay, so all right, so this is something about career wise. Like, what exactly do you have any sort of timeline right now with either putting out a project or what kind of message you would want to put out, or just heck, what do you think what do you think the world's gonna be like in the next 3, 4, 5 months?
Well, I'm trying to be optimistic and hope that the world will come together and kind of view each other as the same, considering we're all going through the same thing. And hopefully, with that, the thing I hate the most about this world is like the border laws when it comes to traveling or wanting to migrate somewhere else, because you can only get one perspective if you're somewhere your entire life. And I hope after this that is sort of diminished, and
Okay.
I don't.
So what happens if
Let's say we're like one world, one race.
one world, one government, one religion? Okay,
I don't think
heard it here
one size
first.
fits all for everybody,
No,
but
definitely not.
like I would like people to be more open-minded and be willing to see perspective through someone else and be more empathetic. I think people are starting to get more empathetic. For everyone to
Okay.
sort of look inside themselves and bring out the best in themselves. And with that, a more peaceful world.
Okay. But it's not one world order, like New World Order thing, right?
No, I don't like one world, but
Nah, I get you. Travel
I think
around.
I want all of us to kind of come together
Yeah.
and supply help for each other, no matter what,
Yeah.
where we come from, etc.
Yeah. We shouldn't allow governments or organizations or some silly mind.
To control us
Yeah.
and
Drive a wedge between us even more, because
yeah, if anything, I want that to be diminished. And
which I'm
even
saying
though we
it's
don't,
not fully gonna always diminish, but we need to get some kind of mutual thing going on, because the way we're doing it now, we're just causing death, mayhem, and like we said, the world is probably sick of the shit.
well, most of the world, yeah, is definitely sick of this shit. But even the people that don't know anything about anything
And
know that this is
you
bullshit
don't know.
and that the government is useless. And I think after this, I would hope for the people in power to step up in order to fulfill citizens' needs. Just basic needs, housing and food. Everybody deserves that. And less homelessness and hunger and
Well, that personally, everything it'll change if people that are listening to us decides that they need themselves to change things in their own personal life. Everyone has their own endeavors and vices and so on. And guess what? You're the only one that can change any of that. So step up.
Yeah, there's only so much you can control. And the first thing starts with you.
I know that sounds corny, but it's very true. Okay. So, okay, so I wanted to take this time. We were just going to shout out our D&D club at
It's
yeah,
Phenomenology Club D&D.
yeah. I just started last month or this Monday, and I had a pretty good time. It was pretty nerdy, and I'm working on my character development.
I
And
feel like everyone's character in it is like a part of themselves.
oh, it definitely
It's
is.
very creative though. I love it. How it's kind of like a creative outlet as well for
Yeah,
storytelling and like character development.
definitely.
And
I
my
feel
character
I feel like a vocal actor. Hey, run them pockets, bro. What you got in them pockets?
yeah, like the first time I did it, I just tried to be like something I was not. But now I'm just being myself and I feel like it's the most authentic way to be in D&D with your
Okay.
character. I'm just like, "Yo, we got to get out of here."
Yeah. Reason I did that was when I was smaller and shit. Like when I would get bullied, sometimes they would be like, "Hey, what you got in your pockets?" And like they'll just start going through. I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, bruh, get off me. It's like, damn, you gotta be pretty damn bold to run up in someone's pockets like that. But like I said, it was a bit hostile. I wasn't hostile, but other kids felt like they were in a hostile environment, and I'm sure that's just how the shit was going on in their own homes. So I never took none of that personal. It just kind of sucked. Did you have sirens going off outside?
Sirens?
Yeah, I heard a ooh, ooh, some weird high
Oh,
pitched noise.
it's just like white noise to me now.
The sound of the urban jungle.
There's just sirens all the time. I don't. The worst is the ice cream truck that still goes outside here every day.
What? The ice cream truck.
Yeah, people actually are buying ice cream.
There you go. You heard it first from Cami here. NY is still buying shit from the ice cream truck. It's like, and if you lived in the East Coast up north, you know that the ice cream truck is like a bodega on wheels.
Basically, but
And if you don't know what a bodega is, it's like a little kind of almost dirty store. Everything's overpriced. Everything is
right.
overpriced, but they do sell loose cigarettes.
You can
And
get
you
those in
can,
the deli too. The deli.
yeah, you can also get you a nice, a sandwich or sub, which I call a
The delis
sub.
are all closed around here though, and the bodegas.
Okay, yeah, just because of that that pandemic,
Yeah, that thing.
that thing out there that's destroying the Matrix world, or destroying the Matrix, and now the media and the politicians have no idea what the fuck to do. It's showing you. It's basically Mother Nature showing humanity that you know, shit can get crazy and you're not in control, buddy. All right. Control is. Do you believe control is an illusion?
I think control is illusion. It is an illusion. I don't think we ever really have a choice. We can make immediate choices in our day to day lives, like I'm going to eat a sandwich, but ultimately we don't
Yeah, the bigger picture is
The
not.
bigger picture is we don't have a choice. It's
Yeah, we're.
whatever. And now it's become more apparent because nature has decided we don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can control our small little picture here, but the bigger one we can't. We can't even put a line in it. Is there anything you want to go into at all
Um,
that we might not have touched on yet?
no, not that I can think of.
Okay. How was the School of Rock, by the way? Because you
Oh,
did say that you were in the, was Jack Black your teacher or someone like him?
Jack Black wasn't my teacher, but like that organization taught me to not give a fuck
Nice.
and to stick it to the man.
Oh, really?
No, but I was like maybe like one of 3 girls in that place. I was always surrounded by little boys, dudes.
Yeah.
So I kind of like saw
As horny as they can be.
how they worked from like a young age. I mean, I didn't have brothers. I had a sister. We're not very close, but I was always like growing up around other dudes and like I guess I was like one of the boys like growing up as they
Okay.
say.
You was the tomboy.
Yeah. Um and like I think people always say tomboy. Oh, like oh, I don't get like people mad at me or whatever, but I'm like I think I just like picked up on certain behaviors or acted a certain way as a way to survive and like get by in this man dominated world. And I never really thought about it. And now that I think of it, I think I mostly picked up that behavioral pattern in rock school.
Okay. All right, so that was it for my interview with Cami-Oh. I'd like to thank her for joining me, and gladly will, look forward to interviewing her again. And on that note, we also had to give a special shout out to the Feminology Club and to Bash Nova, and we'll have all those links up for you, so be sure to check it out. And I'll see you guys on the next episode.